Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Karim Darwish, and inshallah I will be walking you guys through the introduction of pulmonary physiology, which is P16 in our block, inshallah. Inshallah, I try my best to summarize the slides of Dr. Shams. I know that they can get a bit overwhelming, but I try my best to keep it short and simple without leaving out anything important. Inshallah, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. Without further notice, we just go ahead and let's get started. So, introduction. Basically, this slide is just, the purpose of this is just to let you guys know the breakdown of the lecture. Just put it here for the sake of those people who like to see the lecture breakdown. I'm not going to waste time and read it because I'm already going to explain it. But if you guys, again, if you have any questions about this lecture, just feel free to reach out. Alright. So, when I ask you what the respiratory system is, the respiratory system, it should spark an idea in your mind about something in regards to breathing. Okay, gas exchange is also another good one that should come up to your mind, and ultimately those are the basis of the respiratory system. The respiratory system is vital for sustaining human life by enabling the exchange of gas between the body and the surroundings. Like we know, oxygen comes in and carbon dioxide goes out. Okay, that's basically, there's nothing left on the slide. Alright, so the way I want to break this slide down, I want to read this section, my left, and then I will explain this picture and we'll explain it together. It's very, very simple, very easy, nothing too complicated. For the respiratory system, we know that oxygen is essential for life. Our brain needs oxygen, our cells need oxygen. We need oxygen to produce ATP so we can move and function, you know. The process of supplying our cells with oxygen, this is called respiration. So whenever we're supplying our body with the oxygen that we need, this is the process that we call respiration. Okay? We know that the respiratory system is in charge of transportation of gases, oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. Simple as that. So now, point 4 and 5, those two words I want you to really pay attention. Ventilation is the process of taking air from the atmosphere and taking it inside. Okay, the air that's outside right now, that when I'm taking it in, the air going from the atmosphere all the way into my lungs, this is ventilation. Okay, now diffusion, when you hear the word diffusion throughout this lecture, I want you to think of something spreading, something going in and out of something, passing through a membrane. Okay, we're going to talk about the alveolar capillary membrane, I think, in the next slide. And I want you to know diffusion is the passing of gas through the lungs' alveolar capillary membrane. We're passing through a membrane. Okay, now let's shift our focus here. I'm going to start with the middle, go to the right, and then the left. Okay, I just think that the order of that just works best. Okay, so starting here, where the air is coming from outside, it's going from the atmosphere into the lungs. This is called ventilation. Okay, it's going to pass through circulatory systems and continue to do all its function, and then it's going to reach the membrane. It's going to get to the membrane and it's going to cross it by diffusion. If you guys remember in F&D we spoke about simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and all that. This is the same idea. We're diffusing across the membrane, across the alveolar capillary membrane to be exact, in order to reach our target site. In this case, we're going to be reaching the mitochondria for metabolic processes. Okay, the oxygen is going to get metabolized in various reactions, and we're going to produce carbon dioxide. Now, this carbon dioxide has to exit the body, correct? And how are we going to exit the body? It is going to follow the exact same pathway that the oxygen came in, but in opposite direction, because it has to leave. Okay, so oxygen came in, carbon dioxide is going to follow that same road out. Okay? Alright, so now I want you to shift your focus with me to the partial pressure of oxygen. Oxygen's partial pressure, as you notice when it's outside in the atmosphere, right here, it's about 150. Okay? Now, I want you to know that when we transition through different stages of respiration, we're going to decrease that partial pressure. And it's going to continue to decrease until it gets to the mitochondria, and it's going to be in the range of 1 to 2. Okay? I know it's a bit unclear here, but it's going to be in the range of 1 to 2. Okay? Likewise, for carbon dioxide, it's going to start at 40 to 45 range, and it's going to transition between all these phases. As it reaches outside, then it will become 0. Okay? Alright, I hope that was clear. Let's move forward. Okay, now, you've been hearing me talk about something diffusing across the alveocapillary membrane or something crossing across the alveocapillary membrane. What is alveocapillary membrane? Something that I want you to understand the basis of a membrane's function is that it separates two things. Okay, for example, intra and extracellularly. Okay, in this case, the alveocapillary membrane is going to be the divider between the blood compartments and the air compartment. Okay, we're going to be separating the air and the blood. We can't have them mix. Okay, for the alveocapillary membrane is a thin interface between the alveolar air and capillary blood. The main function of this is to allow rapid and efficient gas exchange, oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. Okay, this is very important because we need rapid and efficient gas exchange. Okay, now shift your focus. So this is the alveocapillary membrane. Okay, now if you shift your focus down here with me, if you really look at it, it looks like a passageway. Okay, and this is what we call an alveolar duct. An alveolar duct, basically, it's like a hallway. It's like a road that leads to the alveoli, which is the air sac itself. Okay, it helps the air reach into the alveoli and allows the oxygen and carbon dioxide to move between the air and the blood. Okay, pretty straightforward, I think, so far. Nothing too difficult. Now we're going to talk about the structure of the respiratory tract, and I'm going to use the analogy of tubes. Okay, so before we start in the slide, I want you to think about something for a second. The air, when it comes inside your lungs, it's not like a quick, I'm going inside the lungs immediately. No, there's a passageway. There's a lengthy road. It has to travel a little bit, and it's about like 1/3 of a meter. Okay. Likewise, in the circulatory system, we know that when the blood vessels, they pump the blood is not traveling to where it needs to go quickly. The blood is traveling across a distance. The key word here is that they both travel across a long distance. And when we're talking about the structure of the respiratory tract in terms of function and build, they're very similar in terms to the circulatory system because they both travel over a long distance, and that they both have the idea of branching. Okay, for example, in the circulatory system, the blood vessels will eventually branch off into capillaries, millions and millions of capillaries. Same thing here for in the lungs. We're going to start with the trachea. We're going to split into right and left bronchi, and it's going to continue until there's many bronchioles. And then we'll have, we're going to have many alveolar sacs. Okay? So, here, a quick recap. This is the main job of the respiratory system, is to move air between the body and the environment, to let oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange between the air and the blood. This is things that we already know. The air is going to have to travel a long distance before reaching the blood and the lungs. The circulatory system also moves and exchanges substances over a long distance, which we already discussed. Because of this, the respiratory and circulatory system have similar structure. Why? Because they both move over a long distance. In the respiratory tract, air passes through tubes that branch into smaller tubes, just like blood vessels in the circulatory system. The tubes I'm talking about in the respiratory system are the trachea and the bronchi, and then in the circulatory, it's the blood vessels. Okay, the smallest part of these systems are the most numerous, giving a large surface area of gas exchange. And when we're breathing, we need a lot of air that we need to filter and convert from oxygen to carbon dioxide so we can continue to breathe. That's why we have so many alveoli sacs. Okay, and I like to think of it as grapes. You have a grapevine, and it splits off in branches, and then there's a bunch of grapes. Okay, all those grapes are the alveoli. You have so many gas exchanges happening. Okay, and it also helps increase the surface area, because the more surface area, the more efficient the work is going to get done. Okay, all right. Oh, and because they are built similarly, the same physical forces help move gases and fluids in both systems. All right, moving along. So we know our respiratory tract. We have upper and lower. Okay, upper respiratory tract is going to. So whenever. Just to preface, when I'm talking about breathing here, I'm talking about breathing through the nose, not breathing through the mouth. Because breathing through the nose is the normal respiration. For anything I'm discussing, it's because it's going through the nose, not the mouth. Alright, so the first part of the respiratory system is the nose. This, when you breathe, air enters your nose, enters the nostrils, passes through the nasal cavity, then it flows into the pharynx, and from there into the larynx. Okay, so how we said nostril, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx. Okay, the structures from the nose all the way to the larynx, this is your upper respiratory tract. Okay, one more time. from your nose all the way down to your larynx is the upper respiratory tract. Okay? Now, what lines these respiratory tracts, or what makes this, like, what do we have to know about this? There's two things I want you to know. It has a rich blood supply, and it's covered with mucus. Okay? Now, we're going to discuss about each one and why it's important. The blood is going to help warm the mucus. Okay? It's going to moisten the mucus as well. Okay? The mucus is going to help to warm and moisten the air. So the blood is going to warm and moisten the mucus. The mucus is going to help warm and moisten the air before it moves into the lower respiratory tract. Okay? The mucus is a sticky substance. Okay, well, I'm sure we all know this. The mucus is not, it's a sticky substance. For the purpose of it being sticky is that it's going to trap dust and other particles in the air, pathogens, anything that's not supposed to be in your body, it's going to attempt to trap it. Okay, these features help condition the air so it does not cool or irritate the deeper, more delicate parts of the lung. You want the air that comes into your lungs to be warm. You don't want it cold. Okay, because if it's cold, that's going to be dangerous for your lungs. Okay, let's continue. If it would work. There we go. Alrighty. Alright, so now that we talked about the upper, let's discuss the lower respiratory tract. The lower respiratory tract is shaped like a tree. Think of it like a tree and its branches. Okay? Now, not that tree, now we're going to talk about the roots. Okay? So, we're going to split it into sections and go bit by bit. Okay, so we're going to start off with the trachea. It's a short tube, about 2.5 centimeters in diameter. It extends from the larynx, divides into two smaller tubes called the main bronchi. Okay? So it's going to be, you have, the trachea is the tree. Okay? And it's going to divide into right and left bronchi. Okay? The main bronchi, one goes to the right lung and one goes to the left lung, as we can see right here. So this is the trachea. And you have the left bronchi and right bronchus. Sorry, apologies. Bronchi is just the plural. Bronchus is one. Bronchi is two. Okay. Now, each one is going to split into smaller bronchi, like tree roots dividing into smaller branches. So you guys see how here you have these main bronchi, and then you have these different ones. It's like the roots of the tree. Now we're going underground. We're inside the ground, inside the lungs. We're spreading out even more. Okay. These extra branches are going to contain cartilage, which keeps them fairly rigid, contains smooth muscle, which can change their diameter. Okay, smooth muscle is always going to change the diameter, either going to contract or expand. Okay, so after 15 divisions we've been dividing now, after 15 of this, the air tubes become bronchioles. Okay, and they're going to be very small, 1 millimeter in diameter. Bronchioles have no cartilage. So what I want you to know, cartilage is very rigid, it's very hard. Okay? And if you have something tiny and has hard things around it, it's not going to really be able to expand that much. It's going to be very rigid. We don't want that. We don't want rigid little things inside your lungs. Okay? So the bronchioles, no cartilage, but they have a lot of smooth muscle. They continue to divide into even smaller tubes. Okay? We're going to continue to get smaller. After about a dozen more divisions, which is 12 more divisions, very small sacs, we have something called alveoli. Okay? This is where we have the gas exchange. Okay? Appear on the sides ends of the smallest bronchioles. The alveoli are extremely important because they are at the sites of gas exchange where oxygen and carbon dioxide move between air and lungs and the blood. Okay? This is where we're talking about the alveolar capillary membrane. Okay? Now, this deep area of the lung is called the gas exchange region or the respiratory zone. In this zone, there is no air currents. Gas moves only by diffusion. Okay? Diffusion means spreading. We're spreading by itself. Like the way that I think of diffusion is when you take a cologne, and you spray it. You notice that the smell goes across the room. It doesn't just sit in one place. This is diffusion. Okay? The other parts of the respiratory tract, the bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, and upper respiratory tract, are called the conducting airways because air moves through them by bulk flow, not diffusion. Okay? I want you to think of it like this. Conducting zone and respiratory zone. The conducting zone, there's no gas exchange. The air is just moving in. Okay? The air is moving in, not by diffusion, it's because you're moving it. You're breathing in a bunch of air at once for that. It's going in. Okay, now, versus if you do diffusion, it's just going to spread it's going to spread. But you don't choose to diffuse, you choose when to breathe. Okay? Kind of, if that made sense. I hope that did make sense. Okay, anyways, let's move forward, inshallah. Make sure I didn't skip anything, because my slides are a bit slow. Okay. Alright. Now, the slide is probably going to be the most not difficult, but the most filled, because there's a lot of terms that I want you to know. But inshallah, I'll make it very easy, inshallah, and it won't take too much of our time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We have dead space, conducting zone, and gas exchange space, respiratory zone. When I want you to hear the term dead space, think of not involved. Okay, it's dead. No, we don't use it. Okay, the best thing that I could find picture for this is a lung that's not working, but it does not mean your lung is not working. Please don't confuse this. And I was just being silly, and it just so happened that's the only thing that my brain could come up with. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the dead space and gas exchange space. Now we have airways branch into 23 generations. Generations, you can also sub it for 23 branches or 23 sections. Okay. Now, the first 16 generations, they're going to be called the conducting airway. There is no gas exchange occurring here. Okay? This region is called the anatomical dead space. Okay? Why? There's no gas exchange. I think of it, dead space, no gas. If there's no gas coming in, oxygen coming in, you die. Okay? If I think of it like this, there's no gas exchange. Okay? Now, the last 7 generations, they're going to be the alveolar or gas exchange region. Alveoli appear and allow gas exchange O2 and CO2 between air and blood. Some alveolar areas may be non-functional, collapsed, or non-perfused. Okay, some of them might not work. Okay, these behave like dead space, and we call included in the physiological dead space. Now, pay attention to this next sentence very carefully. Physiological dead space is greater than or equal to anatomical dead space, never smaller. Why? Let's focus on this. So, we said that the anatomical dead space is air in the conducting airways. Okay? Following each other. Now, physiological dead space is the amount of volume that is not included in gas exchange. Okay? So, basically, anatomical dead space is it's a set amount. It's a space, and it holds a certain amount of volume. Okay? This set amount of volume is never going to change. It's there. You can either have more in it, or you can have the same amount as it. You can't have less of an anatomical space, because it's the structure that's already there. If you have a set anatomical space, the amount of physiological dead space that you're going to have is going to be greater than or equal to it. You can't have less, because how are you going to have less of something that you already have? You can't have less of something that's already there. I really hope that made sense. This part is a bit tricky and a bit confusing, but I really hope that it makes sense. Okay, now we're going to shift our focus a little bit to lung volumes and certain things that I want to focus on here. So, volume at the end of normal expiration is 3 liters. Okay, I want you guys to memorize these numbers. I think they're going to be very important. Dead space volume is what we talked about earlier. It's going to be 150 milliliters, which is about 5%. Okay, the total lung volume is going to be 1.5 liters minimum to 7 liters maximum. Okay, this is total lung volume. Okay, changes during breathing mainly affect alveolar volume. Alveolar volume, not. How I'm going to say it 6 times. Not dead space volume. Okay. Okay. Tidal volume is normal breathing. I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. Quiet breathing, not like what I'm doing right now. This is tidal volume. This is going to be about 500 milliliters. Okay, a third of that is going to be dead space, and 2/3 of that is going to be alveolar space. Okay, alveolar surface area for gas exchange is about 1 meter squared per kilogram body mass, 70 to 90 meters squared total. Okay, and the alveolar capillary barrier thickness is as it's written there. I don't think that's too important, but it just talks about how the thickness of it allows for efficient gas exchange. It's not too thick, because if you have a thick membrane, it's going to be more difficult for things to get through. I also talked about this in F&D, about how we said that the increased permeability and decreased permeability depends on membrane thickness. If the membrane is thick, permeability is not going to be increased, it's going to be decreased. It's going to be impaired. But if you have a thin barrier, it's going to be easily diffusible. Diffusible? I hope that's a word. Okay, and this picture here is from the slides. Basically, it talks about the same thing that I just mentioned, about how 1/3 of the tidal volume is going to be dead space and the rest is going to be alveolar space. Okay, let's move forward, inshallah. Now, the functions of the dead space. We said dead space, that it's the area that we are not going to be involving in the exchange of gas. It's just going to be conducting the air. Okay? Conducting air to the gas exchange region of the lungs. It basically it functions as a gateway for the air to come in. It goes in and it tells it this is where you need to go to the gas exchange region. Okay? Dead space does not do anything for gas exchange. It just moves the air. Okay? It warms it. بيدفي الهواء. عشان you don't want the air to come into your lungs cold. Okay? You also increase the humidity. You humidify the air and make it moist because you don't want harsh particles of just air just gushing into delicate areas of your lungs. It also cleans the air from dust and other contaminants, and we defense against microbes through IgA and IgG, which we took briefly in the immunology of F&D. So I'm not going to explain too much on that. Okay, now this slide I'm going to explain briefly, and then I will also be giving a lecture on this. I will cover this in more details in that lecture. But what I need you to know here, the bronchioles, they contain cartilage, keeps them rigid. Okay, they have a smooth muscle which can change the diameter. They contain goblet cells, which essentially makes mucus, and it's lined with ciliated epithelium, which helps move the mucus, because you don't want the mucus to stay still. If the mucus stays still, this is not bad. This is not good. This is going to cause a bunch of issues which we do not need. So the cilia aids in the movement of this mucus. Okay, the bronchioles, no cartilage present. As we mentioned previously, it has smooth muscle, and it has no mucus glands, because the deeper that you go, you don't want mucus. Because if you have mucus with the air, it's going to cause a lot of problems, and it might let the alveoli collapse and not be able to work properly. Epithelium has smaller cells. Cilia only is in the larger bronchioles. Participate in mucociliary clearance, along with bronchiole. Okay, same things we've been discussing. Alveoli lined with thin type 1 alveolar tissue. Structures specialized for efficient gas exchange. And this table right here, I have placed this table here for you. I don't think it's in the slides, but I put this here for you so you guys can see it has a more breakdown of it. I believe it is in the slides. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember. I apologize. Okay, moving forward. Okay, my last slide. We're going to talk about the alveolar macrophages that we discussed, about how we're going to help clean the air. So we know that macrophages, they're in charge of eating and engulfing particles, correct? If you inhale a dust particle, if you hear a pathogen, the macrophage is going to be the thing that helps protect it. The alveolar macrophages are found where? They're immune cells that reside on the alveolar surface and phagocytize, engulf and digest, dust, microbes, and debris brought in with inspired air, keeping the alveoli clean and free of waste material. You don't want the place that you make gas exchange to be dirty. You want it to be clean. So the alveolar macrophages aid in making sure that it stays clean and functional and healthy enough for the air that comes in. So whenever we're doing gas exchange, everything is A-okay. All right, and I conclude with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this lecture, and I hope that I was very simple and not rushing too quickly, because I tend to speak fast. I hope my allergies also didn't play a role in you not understanding what I had to say. But other than that, I wish you all the best, inshallah. If you guys need any help with anything, please feel free to reach out. I hope this was beneficial to you. Good luck on your exams. Keep studying. Don't give up. Don't be lazy. And inshallah, all khair, inshallah. Kimo signing out. Assalamu alaikum.